Hi. So at the moment, customer experience has changed exponentially. Like would never have imagined it has before. So we're going to talk today about how you can draw out customer journeys, how you can visualize new customer experiences, and how you can maximize your input and your value to your audience and to your guests. And we're going to use lots of examples from hospitality because that's where I'm passionate, but also apply principles across the board and across industries. So it should be a really fun. And I'm also going to be talking about my business, The Gentle Business, and how we can be gentler with ourselves in this really challenging time and take steps to move forward and to celebrate your own character and what you have to offer and really get to know your customers and step into each other's shoes. So this is about sharing your experiences and learning from each other and moving forward into a really successful future.
Hello, Nadia. Good morning there, and welcome to the Research Lab show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon, I guess, to you.
Yeah, here it's afternoon, and I am very happy to have you on the show and excited to chat with you about the hospitality industry and how this year has been. But first, tell us about yourself and how did you start the Gentle Business?
Hi. So it's been a long process. So I started in the hospitality business about 20 years ago. I cut my teeth working for Gordon Ramsay across his restaurant group. I studied marketing and public and media relations. So I was into events and planning, and I was very lucky to get a position with him organizing the private dining across his then 9 restaurants. Obviously, his empire has grown. And then I moved on within the industry to work on the more sort of marketing and event side. I became a reviewer and I used to write guidebooks. So I spent a lot of time eating and drinking and staying out in London, writing reviews for Explorer guidebooks, and then just continued to work with the sort of marketing side of things and started to look more at business strategy. I did a few years as a business consultant and strategist and kind of really about getting underneath the universal themes of growth and leadership and sort of put the two together. You know, my passion has always been hospitality. It's always been about serving and hosting and creating that amazing experience. And so my worlds kind of came together. And the Gentle Business was just recently formed because I wanted to start offering private retreats for people in the industry or entrepreneurs who are stressed out, who want to get away from it all. And that's, you know, a little bit of my hosting and a little bit of my hostmanship is kind of on the side. So I've got some beautiful spots down in the southwest of the UK where I host, and we're looking to host around the world to take people away for that incredible sort of 3 or 4 days of really transformative work where everyone kind of looks in and starts to do the real work on themselves and then takes that back to their business or to their lives. And it's a really exciting time for me. It's great to be able to work all of the different angles of hospitality, from, you know, the serving side to the kind of being the objective eye. And that's what I do for lots of hotels here. I'm basically that objective eye that can kind of come in and talk to them and open that conversation from a different perspective.
Yeah, what you do sounds really wonderful and exciting. After this year, when literally the entire world was in a lockdown, and a retreat sounds so refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you stumble upon working with the hospitality, or is it something like you wanted to do it?
I think I connected different passions. So I was working in public and media relations, and I actually went traveling around the world with my partner. And we traveled for a year, and we went and stayed in everything from tents to 6-star hotels and everything in between. And I think that was where I really fostered an absolute passion for the industry. And when I came back, I was like, well, this is what I want to be. You know, I love traveling and I love experiencing all of the different sides and the different ways that people offer their hospitality in restaurants and food. And I've got real passion for the people, because I think when people in hospitality just tend to kind of be the ones that have huge hearts and they just want to share and give. And, you know, they get excited about what's on their doorstep. And so for me, it was really energizing. And so when I came back, I really wanted to get into a world where I could kind of live out my passion. And I'm really lucky in I've been able to kind of create and carve different areas where I can use both the kind of strategy side and the business side that I'm a bit geeky about and I love, and the kind of, you know, food and drink and the experience side, which is, you know, really fun. So yeah, I've been very lucky to be able to bring those worlds together.
So, like a combination of what you did earlier and plus the thing that you really love is
Yeah,
traveling around and
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
restaurants, fine dining. Yeah. What do you think has been the current state of the industry since you're closely working with people from the industry, and how has it been? How has the coping been like after
Yeah,
that?
I mean, there's no denying it's been awful for the hospitality industry, hugely challenging. Just, you know, having to close their doors, um, having no warning, no knowledge, and the rules changing constantly. You know that they're being completely subjected to um, these decisions that are very removed from them. I don't, you know, and it's constantly evolving and constantly changing. In Scotland the other day, they cut evening hours so you can no longer open after 6 p.m., which is effectively completely removing a shift, you know, a service, isn't it?
The time people tend to go the most at these
Yeah,
places.
absolutely, absolutely. So what it's done for the entire industry is in that kind of real shutdown, it's forced change and it's forced people into being innovative. And that's where it's actually been really exciting and been, you know, those people who have been able to really focus in on themselves and not feel the fear or feel the fear and do it anyway. You know, people that have had to be dynamic. They've created incredible new products. You know, I think it's been really exciting. The cloud kitchens, the pop-ups, the outside dining, people collaborating and cooperating with each other, working in really different ways has been really positive. And as actually, you know, I'm really obsessed with customer experience and customer focus. And I think a lot of the emphasis for these businesses has been to shift their thought pattern to go, actually, okay, we can no longer operate just as we are. We have to work out what the customers are doing and how they're behaving and what their needs are. And that's actually really refreshing because that's what we should have been doing all along. We should always be listening to our customers and changing with them and being more dynamic and going, well, what do you want actually? What can I do for you that will really help you? And, you know, there's been some amazing heroes, people that have been, you know, cooking for the community for free. You know, there's been incredible examples of amazing kindness and generosity in really difficult times. And I think that has really helped people to differentiate and to really show their character. And for me, that's an exciting thing. So although I would not wish this kind of crisis on anyone, and it's been absolutely heartbreaking, you know, job losses, and you know, I don't want to underplay that at all, and some businesses have really struggled, but through adversity comes that kind of creativity, and I think if you can really focus on the positive, and I ran a kind of recovery program throughout lockdown, and I put it on Teachable, you know, ran courses on how to sort of shift and change and how to move forward. And, you know, hopefully that's been really helpful to people. But I've been inspired. I've been absolutely blown away by the incredible creativity around me. So, you know, hopefully that's something that other industries have been able to see and learn from.
Yeah. And how has the customer behavior changed? And how do you suggest people who are into hospitality, who are looking to make that change and shift in their experience? So, how do they connect sort of the customer behavior with providing a pivoted experience or a whole redefined
Okay.
experience? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously physically people's journeys have changed. You know, the way we move, the way we are allowed to, you know, leave our house, stay in our homes, who we're allowed to kind of collaborate with. You know, whether it's a group of six or your own household or different bubbles. You know, there's lots of different terms that are used in different areas.
Yeah.
For me, it's about fundamentally going back to that individual customer, and the first thing I would think about is their motivation, their fear. I think if you want to kind of drive footfall, which is effectively what we're trying to do, is trying to get people to us, it's about understanding what those barriers are and really looking at kind of what are the drivers. So at the moment, it's about health and well-being. I think that's the first thing on everyone's mind is my health, my security, my well-being. And so if an organization, if a hotel or a restaurant can help you, understand what you have to do, reassure you, show you the positive things that they're doing to help protect you and move you forward. There's all these tiny little micro steps that they can take. And it's just by starting with the most instinctive thing in me, which is like, I'm a bit worried about going out. I'm not sure I want to do that. Is that going to be a risk? If you start from there and then take them through the journey, walk them step by step. For me, that's the kind of road to recovery. And it's about identifying who you're talking to and what their specific worries are, because if your demographic is that you normally have retirees, obviously they're going to have a different set of concerns to if you're family oriented, or if you're business oriented. You're not going to be having massive big business lunches because everyone's working from home. So how can you do that? What innovations can you come up with that mean you can invite that? There's been some great examples, hotels that have started offering workspace because people are getting bored of working from home, and so they can kind of go and jump in and do some collaborative workspace things. There's, like you said, cloud kitchens, pop-ups, all those sorts of innovations that come. So I think for anyone looking to work out what the path forward is literally just sit in your customer's shoes and just kind of, what do they feel? What do they see? What do they smell? What do they hear? Like, what is it that's going on in their world? Yeah. Be the customer yourself, yeah. And actually most of us are anyway. We're all our customers, we all want to eat, we want to go out, socialize, and what does that look like? And how can I be reassured? And, even to the point where you can take it all the way and sort of start, I've seen, hotels really focusing on well-being and health and, selling packages that are focused on, immunity boosting and all of that kind of stuff. And it's like, that's literally the extreme. But it's what we want. So why not give the customers what they want?
Yeah, right. So there's been a shift in how the companies or hotels or restaurants are looking at their spaces in terms of their business model, as in how they can maximize the utilization of their space by offering workspace stations, and that's where they can also dine in, let's say if they are hungry throughout the day. So yeah, I think we're seeing new and innovative ways of the space being used. If the hospitality business has a space kind of infrastructure.
Yeah. And even things like, say, I work with a hotel who changed the layout of their rooms, for example, and expanded a couple of their rooms that were smaller, knocked through to give people more space. And actually, by doing so, they created a more luxury product, which meant that they could charge more of a premium, which meant that they attracted better customers. And so actually, by just doing a simple shift in the way that they laid out their rooms, they've actually upgraded their entire offering, and they've now got kind of a smaller number of more valuable guests. And actually, they're finding that the communication to that smaller group is much more manageable and much more pleasurable for them as managers, as owner operators. And so I think it is kind of not being afraid to change that leads to great things, and in their case, it was, better customers, better profits, and a better product. So all in all, a few little adjustments, work for everyone.
Yeah, that's true. And we're seeing all kinds of cleaning certifications coming in. And I think if the place has that kind of a certification, then the customers might trust them more. Is that the case?
I think so. I think it has to be really visible. I think we have to educate our guests and help to reassure them, as we said before. It's really important that the measures that you take are visible and obvious, that you are really helpful, having boxes of masks when you enter so people can, and also trying to make that sustainable. So, and sustainable in so much as environmentally friendly, sustainable in that it's not going to go away tomorrow. So how are you integrating these things into your service? Not just as a kind of tokenistic, okay, well, we've got to do this week. Here's some plastic gloves, and you can grab a mask, and there's a bit of hand sanitizer. How can you actually like beautify that? How can you make that part of a parcel? Are you giving away your branded, scented, unique hand sanitizer? Are you creating bespoke masks? Like, what are you doing that's actually helping someone to sort of have that identity and associate that brand with safety and security and friendliness and beauty? There's so many things you can do.
Yeah, are you thinking this in terms of short-term hacks, or are you thinking about the long term?
Well, we don't know how long these procedures and what we're going to have to do is going to last. I mean, certainly it's probably going to be a year or so. So I don't know if it's the word sort of hacks is a really funny one, isn't it? Because it's a short-term solution, but actually what you're thinking about is the long-term care of your guests. And if it is about creating products, that might be something that a hotel's never done before. And they might suddenly decide that they like creating a new range. So hotels that are creating ranges of delivery, food, they're creating, like I say, scents and anti-bac things. So actually it's about increasing spend and helping to kind of create a bit of brand diversity. Yeah, I mean, on our doorstep, I work with Rick Stein and used to run his deli and the retail operations down here. Rick Stein's now, I don't know if you're familiar with him, he's a celebrity chef in the UK, but he's now offering Steins at home. So the kitchen prep all of the food for you, and then with beautiful recipe, and then they package it in the home, and then you can basically cook Michelin star food at home. Those sorts of products and those sorts of experiences are completely because of how we have to behave around the restaurant. But it's a great new product, and why wouldn't that last beyond lockdowns or beyond any kind of COVID pressure that we have? It's just a great idea and a great product.
About your Recover and Relaunch program, can you let us know how you have been helping the businesses?
Sure. Yeah, of course. So it's kind of a 3-stage. When everything was sort of, locked down, my focus was really to get people to analyze and look at the past, their performances, their websites, the interaction. How did they cope with having to close their doors? How did they cope with the change in shifts? How did their staff behave? It was a real time of reflection and learning. And if you understand what goes well and understand what didn't go so well, you can then kind of improve and make those changes. So hopefully people will have been receptive, and they will have been able to take the time to look at, their cancellation policies and, the bounce backs and how many new bookings they have. The second phase was really about kind of regaining your strengths and repositioning your offers. So if you were changing and, trying to attract a sort of smaller audience, it was about really understanding who that audience is and really refining who you want to go out for. And actually for hotels or restaurants, that's a really exciting time, because they can kind of go back to the beginning and say, well, who does love what we do? Who really identifies with what we do? Not because of my geography or because, we happen to have fallen into this pattern. But it's really going back to that customer avatar and really kind of looking at it, and then sort of going, okay, well, how do I communicate better with that person? How do I create offers that are more exciting to that person? 75% of people book based on novelty and newness. So actually in this time of innovation, that's great. That means that we can attract new people to our business. We don't have to rely on it. And also, how am I nurturing and looking after my loyal customers? What am I doing to communicate with them, and how am I creating that journey? And then the third stage is really about a kind of the rebirth and the regrowth and your long term. So this is more kind of about your staff and development and how you can attract. If you had to lose people, or if you've had to cut your staff, how can you make them learn more, deliver more, engage more, feel more confident? So it's about staff development and that kind of engagement side. So I think from the three, it's the internal and the external, and looking at what else you can do, but very systematically and without the headache. It's kind of about people taking the time to look at themselves a little bit more,
internally as well as externally. So
yeah,
along with the
exactly.
customer, you've also got to look at your team and your place, let's say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and your culture and your values.
Yeah.
What's important to you? What kind of culture are you trying to, are you the young, funky, dynamic, wacky alternative? Are you traditional, homey, safe? What is it that makes you tick as an organization? What do you want to recreate for these people? And actually really focus back in on that and try and communicate that. So I've loved seeing, obviously the shop front is social media accounts and hotels. I've absolutely loved seeing people's journeys through this time, because those that were really engaged in it were sharing behind the scenes, sharing in the kitchens, sharing masterclasses from their incredible chefs and sommeliers and cocktail masterclasses and bakery and really fun things that you wouldn't expect from a hotel or a restaurant. And you almost got more. And I think those people that were able to deliver more will in turn have that return on their investment. And it wasn't just about, for me, the customer experience is not just about that kind of booking. I click, I book, I go. It's about the whole experience that you can create.
So those who were able to provide more access into their places, and let's say the chefs who
Yeah.
videos of master classes. So that is really providing more access to the customers by, let's say,
Yeah,
when they are at home itself. So that will
exactly. And it's fun. It's an interaction.
yeah, it's an interaction, definitely. So you just mentioned that it's not about those clicks, and really customer journey starts from where does it start from? Does it start from the moment they book it, and then to the entire experience? Let's say if they are coming to stay at a hotel and then explore the city, or they're coming to dine, or they're having to they plan a retreat the way you have been offering, and at what all points should the businesses, hospitality businesses, take care of the customer?
That's a really good question. The customer journey starts long before we interact with them. Usually it starts with your reputation. And, that's where your knock on and your market, and you can't control that necessarily, because it will be word of mouth, and how someone comes upon you. So that's just what you manage by being you and by existing and putting out all of the good stuff. The first interactions, there's a lot of CX that gets measured from the points of interaction with your website, the point of interaction with booking, online travel agencies, etc. So you can start monitoring and looking at where people click in and how and where do they come from. So that's really, you can layer it with data. One thing I do is actually get management teams to physically walk people through their customer journey. So draw it out, create these amazing diagrams where they're kind of like, okay, I've booked, it's the week before, am I packing? Do I know what the climate's like in the place I'm going? How am I traveling there? Am I going by plane? Am I going by train? Can I park? Etc. Really all the details. The lobby, what does it look like? Who do I speak to first? What interactions do I have? What information am I given? Is it on an app? Is it on a piece of paper? Is it face to face? What does it look like? What does check-in look like? All the way to the room, blah, blah, blah. You've got this huge arc of interactions and work, and who's in and who's not. And then once we've kind of drawn out this pretty in-depth customer journey, you can sort of traffic light it. So I always say, green are the things you're doing really well, or where you're going to give guests pleasure and joy. So, a little smiley green face everywhere. Where there's going to be friction or issues, just red light it or amber light it. Amber light it for like a possible issue, red light it where consistently we always have issues there because of our infrastructure or because of our booking engine or because that's information isn't clear, and you'll soon see along your picture where your work needs to go. And if you consistently across all the departments, everyone says the red lights are in the same place, you've got to do something about that. And if you've got green lights in certain places, perfect opportunity for marketing. Shout about it, tell everyone about what amazing service you have, whether it's the fabulous welcome, whether it's the person that takes your bags to your rooms, it could be any of those things, but they're really good opportunities to kind of share and shout about them, and also internally compliment the people that are doing well in that area. And then the fun starts again when you can add data. So you can add numbers and statistics to all of those areas. You can talk about upselling in the restaurants or add-ons or different packages that you can offer. And it becomes a really, really beautiful, living, breathing diagram that is constantly evolving, and you can constantly work on it. But I think there's something really important about having visibility of a customer journey. And yeah, like you say, it doesn't finish when they check out. How lovely is it when you receive a little text message to say, hope you got home safe, wishing you all the best, be great to see you next year. Or hey, maybe you get that birthday card or happy anniversary, we know you celebrated with us last year, we'd love to see you again, or we heard you had a baby, great, bring them back. So obviously all of that takes energy and takes effort, but the more smooth your journey, the more effortless it becomes, and the more fluid it becomes, and the more kind of warm and natural it becomes. So although at first these, it's quite difficult for people to kind of visualize, I think it's a really valuable exercise, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's there in black and white. You've got to do something about it.
Yeah. So observe a lot of what is going on, and instead of let's say, why am I not getting the customers, break it down into parts in the customer journey format, and then flag the red, green, and let's say amber.
Exactly.
To see where you really stand, and then work on it accordingly. I think describing the problem better lets you figure out the problem better into solution.
That's it. And it can't be done by one person in head office. That's the key. I always work with management teams, and sometimes we bring in, and I say to them, go away and work with your front of house team or work with your kitchen team to do it, because the person who stood at the door or the cleaner who goes into that room knows better than you what those flag points are. And so by using their voices, we learn from everyone, because we don't know necessarily that the one person that gave the greatest pleasure to a company happened to be the bellboy who was really, friendly and, was helpful and always had good mornings and, was playing with the kids. As a manager sitting in an office, you don't necessarily know that interaction even happens until you ask, until you say, well, who do they see and what do they hear? And, and what experience are they having? And that's why it's a real collaboration. And I think for organizations right now, team building is really important. Bringing together their teams is because everyone's stressed and it's really hard. And so I think these exercises are really good to kind of get everyone back together again and feeling positive.
The team training is really crucial when you know that the team is going to interact with the customers. And apart from the tangible parts that you have, let's say your property, the other thing is your team, people around the people. And rather than also relying on one opinion, taking everyone's opinion into account and forming the entire strategy out of it. That sounds very well informed.
Yeah. And I think we often think of customer service, the end point of our product. Yeah. And actually, as you said, it's about strategy. It's feeding into the beginning. So, the customer experience, customer service isn't a nice add-on. It's absolutely fundamental to everything that we do. So it has to be a cycle, a constantly evolving cycle where we look, we review, we go back in, And actually, what better time now, if we've had a time to sort of step back and everything's changed, it's a perfect opportunity for a review. Universally, we've never had such a unifying change in behavior.
Right.
So now we actually we probably have a better understanding of our guests because we've all been through similar experience, and so we can all kind of put ourselves in those shoes.
And people are more open to change now than ever. And I think
Yeah.
being flexible about your operations or your customer experience makes
Yeah.
total sense now in this year,
Yeah.
the last year, let's say.
That's right.
Yeah, you mentioned human interaction is so crucial when redefining the customer journey, but we also
Mm.
see a lot of robots popping up in
Yeah.
chains like Marriott and Hilton, where they, let's say, do the tasks that are repetitive or automated. For example, delivering the room service. The room service, now we see robots kind of replacing that, or they are testing it out maybe. And this also helps with
Yeah.
the contactless thing that is going on. That you need
Yeah.
more contactless here, the better for, let's say, the customer, and they'll have more
Sure.
trust in you. How do you think that has turned out?
Yeah, I mean, technology is something that we should embrace and, can live alongside us. I don't think it's necessarily a 100% replacement.
Yeah.
I think there are areas that work, like you say, really well with technology, that sort of more vending machines, more, ability to kind of get products or collect food, etc., without having to have that human contact. And as long as within your organization there's a human element, I think that's what's really important. Because it's great to have the efficiency of technology and to be able to kind of collect your whatever, your food or get your key, or check in without having to see anyone. I think that's brilliant, but as human beings we crave human interaction. It's just in our nature. And so at some point across your journey, it will be good to have some human interaction. And even those hotels that work solely, we know the understanding is that we will go in, it will be a self check-in, you will go through and everything will be technically done for you. I think when we're searching out new experiences or we're looking to spend more money, I don't necessarily think they're the ones that pull us as humans. I think we're pulled in by valuable experiences, and we're pulled in by knowledge, and we're pulled in by people's passion. And so it would be more challenging the more technology you have to kind of integrate that well into your customer journey. But absolutely embrace it. And technology has been really helpful, like apps, handheld apps, have been brilliant at kind of helping customers through and helping organizations to create new offers, to create new experiences, to add that kind of interaction. So, I think it's brilliant. 2025, we're all going to move towards greater use of technology. And like you say, chatbots or interaction and that kind of thing, absolutely not shying away from it, but there's a balance to be had. And I think that's the key. And fundamentally, you've got to program your character into your systems. And so if you're a hotel that is absolutely totally technical and totally sort of tech and app and remote, that can be part of your character, and that's great. The kind of robotic hotels, everyone understands what it is. I think the disconnect will happen where you haven't communicated well enough what you are. Are you that sort of homely, family friendly, soft, welcoming, or are you the kind of super tech? Or how are you going to blend the two? And that's all about communication. And that's where kind of communication and marketing and strategy has to be really clear, because your voice has to be heard, whether it's coming through a robot or through a person. It's every organization has a very unique voice. And that's what we mustn't lose, even if we use apps and technology.
Yeah, truly finding your voice and the gesture that you're communicating through your persona and your team. I think the
Yeah.
balance that you said is perfect to
Yeah.
adopt.
And I think we'll probably go in and out, won't we? We'll throw some apps, we'll throw some technology, we'll see how people like it, then we can adjust.
Yeah.
it's all in evolution. I think you got to try things. I'm all for trying it and seeing how it rolls. And
Yeah,
as long as you keep positive and you keep honest and you tell people, hey, that didn't work so well, we'll just do it differently now. That's okay. We're very forgiving as human beings. We kind of let people make mistakes actually. And sometimes we don't judge them for it. If you've built a good relationship with someone, you allow them to make a few mistakes. So I think we all
yeah,
need to kind of remember that. And that's where the gentle business comes in. Remember the kindness and remember the humanity of it all, and just keep moving forwards.
right. And what you also said about some people might like it, some people might not, depending on their personality, what they really like. Let's say tech geeks might like the entirely robotic, 100% automated hotel and
Yeah.
would actually go there to just explore that hey, this new hotel that offers this.
Yeah.
And some might be where they want the cozy, warm gesture, which the hospitality industry is about. Uh,
Yeah.
and
And age has got a huge influence. So, when we were talking about going to restaurants and having to order everything via an app, scanning your QR code, making sure, there's a generation of people who don't have smartphones in their pockets necessarily. They don't have the latest. It confuses them. It stresses them out. They don't have a PayPal account with a remember my password. So they're sitting there in that place kind of panicking, thinking, well, hang on a minute, you're now excluding me and all of my peers because I'm not au fait with your technology. And that's where the risk factor happens, because if we don't, those, like you say, it can be a pure attraction because people be like, oh, amazing. I mean, in my hometown in Italy, there's one of the first ice cream gelateria, proper gelateria, all mechanical. So it's served, it's scooped all by robot arm. It's great. People go there because it's fun, and my parents wouldn't go there. My grandmother wouldn't go there, because it's
yeah,
not. She's like, oh, I don't want to be served by a metal arm. I want to have some chat. I want to talk about the recipes or whatever.
right.
So yeah, know your audience, and if you have to bring in new technology that might alienate them, just do your best to help and educate them and make the instructions as simple as possible,
Yeah,
because otherwise you're putting up barriers to entry, and they're silly barriers. An app shouldn't be a barrier, but
yeah.
for some
It
people
should
it
actually
is. So
facilitate more
yeah,
than,
exactly. So
yeah. And if you're doing something new, be ready to take feedback and, pivot things accordingly if needed.
yeah, exactly. And explain. Don't expect people to know how to do things. um
Yeah,
all systems, a bit like people putting their arrows on the floor.
yeah,
Like, okay, we understand that we have to stand 2 meters apart, but it's really helpful to have the arrows on the floor, just because it
yeah,
helps you not have to think about it. You're like, oh, I just
yes,
stand on my dot. That's fine. Little things like that, the subconscious help and effort, the signs, the sanitizer, the whatever, all of those things are just kind of subliminal, and they're really helpful. And it helps us to not have to think about it. So it's not always trying to think about what you have to think, but taking away the thought so that it's easier. It's all about kind of creating less rub, less
friction.
friction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always easier to be told what needs to be done because you already
Yeah.
know that because you designed it, and
Yeah,
that becomes easier that way. Yeah,
exactly.
that makes sense. If we zoom out a bit out of the hospitality industry, what do you
Mm.
think are the learnings which are universal for that matter, which are also applicable to other industries? And what can other industries learn from hospitality?
Yeah, I mean, most of the fundamental um, things we've looked at, customer journey, knowing your customer, finding your voice, communicating fluidly what you need your customers to do and what you're going to do for your customers, are completely universal. There's absolutely nothing singular about hospitality. But what hospitality can offer other industries is that focus on care, nurture, how much you value your customers and that interaction, and how much character you can show through your behaviors. A lot of businesses don't really think of themselves as having character or a kind of unique position. And those that do and that recognize it, the Apples and the Innocent Smoothies and all these brands that have got real identity and character, do really well because they understand, who they are, who their customers are, how they're going to communicate, and what the offer is. So I think that's completely universal. But if I was going to say anything, I would literally just say, walk through the door as if you were going into a restaurant or a hotel. Take your customers and walk them through your door, whatever that, if that's a virtual door, if that's a manufacturing order, if that's via a third-party website, whatever that journey is, you can always take a step into your customer's shoes, with greater depth and with greater ease, and see what you're doing really well and see where your gaps lie, without having to worry about what the product is. It's pretty universal.
Yeah, what we discussed until now, I think if we sort of pull back the word hospitality, it really applies to anyone and everyone.
Yeah. And I work, the teams that I work with, for example, I work with seasonaires in the ski in the Alps, and the concepts there are very similar. So they have a very short, it's like contract work. They have to get a team of staff on board, trained up, ready to go in a week. And then they are customer facing, almost 12, 15, 18 hours a day, really intense for 9 months, and then it's all done. I mean, and it's cyclical. Every year they have to do the same. So when I'm working with teams to kind of gear them up and get them ready, that, there's so many industries where they're constantly having to recruit, if it's a delivery company and they've suddenly got a massive rise in, especially, couriers and things like that, you've got to get people in fast. They've got to so how do you mobilize a small team really quickly, often young, often inexperienced? What do you do with that team? And those things are universal because it's about understanding their motivations, understanding what's going to trigger them, understanding how they're learning, and giving them all of the information that they need at the right time, and really empowering them to do their jobs really well without you. And what does that look like for them? That is, critical to kind of turning businesses around. So there's loads of examples where it's just, teams. It's a team of people fundamentally. And again, it's going back to the human element where we talk about customers and customer experience. What's my experience as a worker? What's my experience in that job? What's my sense of security? Do I know I'm going to have this job, especially now? Like, how many of us are kind of going like, great, I've got a contract, but how long, I know X and Y lost their jobs, or that person was on furlough and I'm working from home and I don't know how I'm going to manage that if the kids are off school, etc. There's so many human journeys that we're on internally that managers and business people can start to look at and really kind of find their empathy. And the best hosts and the best kind of caretakers have a lot of empathy. So work on that, if nothing else.
Definitely. What is the most given recommendation when you're working with teams? What do you think you have been telling to every team that you've worked with? And what is like this is what every team needs, and what is your top recommendation for every team?
Wow. Oh, big question. How to break it down. I think for me, it's about giving people confidence.
Yeah.
Because someone who has confidence has knowledge and ability, and they're able to deliver. If you haven't got the knowledge, so you can only be confident if you know what you're doing. And in order to have that confidence, it's about making sure that person is given all the tools that they need to do the job, that they, that goes behind it. And that ability to be confident means that they'll make decisions without constantly referring back to other people, or having to check whether they're doing the right thing. So whatever gives people confidence, whether, like you say, it's extra training, if it's knowledge, if it's a buddy system, if it's mentoring, if it's about inspirational stuff, if it's about carrot dangling incentives, that sort of help drive people forwards. Confidence is the key to any team success. I would say confidence over productivity. Confidence comes over pay. It's about giving people real sense of pride and confidence in themselves. People surprise, I think when you do have a team of confident people, they will often outperform any experts because they got it, and they've got the passion, and they've got the drive and the desire. Yeah. And they often surprise you. That's where the quiet ones come out and you're like, whoa, I did not know you had that in you. But if you give them the keys, you give them that freedom and the ability to do their job really well, then they'll often overperform, which is great for everyone.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Being confident is key to unlocking all the other goals that you have and making your team be confident. Okay, you sort of mentioned that when you're checking upon other people, what other people are doing, it really brings the competition factor. And on being competitive and staying ahead of the curve is sort of when you're not confident, you sort of keep checking what other people are doing. And
aren't we all guilty of that on social media? We're always looking at everyone else, thinking that everyone else is doing it better than us.
Social media is
on a day-to-day
comparison and what is happening in their life, but that is not happening in my life. And
sure.
I think that happens with businesses as well who are into similar fields. And you did this really cool thing of the 30-day. I would like to know more about that. And on one of the days, a flashcard showed, I'll just read that out. I will see my competitors as my teachers, and I will learn from them. So could you share more of that?
Yes. So I created a 30-day stretch. So for businesses, for entrepreneurs, I don't know if you can see them actually. Some of the cards I kind of keep around me. It was like an advent calendar thing when, in the build up to Christmas, it's like, hang on, what's more meaningful than just opening an envelope every day that has a question on it about your business and then a statement and an affirmation. And, there's space on the card for you to write what it is that you do. So these are the questions that every business or every entrepreneur, ask themselves. So hang on, let me just grab one off my board. There's my card. So the question I've written is, do you know how to protect your skills and assets productively? So this is, like you said, about sharing, competition, like how much do we kind of do the school kid, like you're not seeing my work, or how much do we throw it out there to the universe and say, learn from me, like I'm an expert, I will teach you. I don't have to protect my skills. You don't see on MasterChef or people, Jamie Oliver, he gives away his recipes, he's giving away his knowledge, he's giving away his skills, he's not protecting it to better himself. And the affirmation is, I can protect myself and still share what I have and what I know. And as a business, what can you do to share what you know? And you guys do this as a platform. You share your knowledge, you share other people's knowledge, you kind of invite people to come in and talk. If we were all really competitive, it wouldn't work, because we would all be so protective that we wouldn't give value to anyone. And so things like that, those little, reminders, the gentle reminders that you can have every day. They're really fun to work through if you're working for yourself, or if you're working in a team, or, great like corporate gift, if you want to give everyone in the team something and you can share them out. But they're just little gentle reminders of the fundamental things that we all face in terms of, our daily working lives. And again, for me, it's about personal accountability and personal confidence and knowing who you are as a business. And one of the principles of competition is we can all enjoy differentiation. That's where it's great, because if you compete, if you and I was to sort of sit together, there's so many things that defines us differently that we can celebrate. And there are loads of things that are universal that we could also celebrate. And so I think putting a positive spin on that kind of competition. And yeah, like you say, learning, collaborating, working together is a really positive thing. And that's what I'm all about fostering, is that kind of there's sort of privacy and doing things the way that you do things internally, but there's also what you can share. And fundamentally, we all have a duty to add value to other people's lives where we can in work. I feel that's one of my motivators. That's one of my drivers, is to help and to add value wherever I can. And it doesn't matter what I get for it. It's just about giving as much as I can give.
Yeah, people will sort of come back to you if you have more to offer than, let's say, to you can also collaborate with people to celebrate the differences. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the 30-day program that uh, I'm not sure if it's called a program, but
Yeah.
it sounds
30-day
really
stretch
good.
program. You
The
can call it whatever
stretch.
you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sort of gives you a question every day to think about, and when you are
Yes.
asking the right questions, you are thinking the right direction. So sort of uh,
Yeah.
30 days of
Exactly.
directional thinking.
That's it. And I wanted to put them on. I actually wanted to just not just make them digital. I wanted to make them something that you can kind
Yeah,
of feel
tangible.
and hold, because I think there's something really tangible
Yeah,
about writing your answers. And sometimes, like, I don't know about you, but I think a lot when I go for walks or when I'm out in nature, or, when I'm just having that quiet time to myself. And so for me, holding on to something physical and then, filling it in, and then, 6 months down the line, you can kind of pick it up and you're like, wow, I was there in my thinking, am I still there, or have I moved on, or is
yeah,
it different? It's lovely to have something, in this digital age. It's quite nice to have something. I just wanted to create something that you could hold, and
yeah.
like and
Me too.
use and write, and they're really pretty. And yeah, I'm shipping worldwide. So if anyone wants them, I
Yeah,
can ship them out.
sure. So let's go with the rapid fire round.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, your most read book or your favorite book.
Oh, my favorite book. It's from my childhood, actually. It was a story called Matilda, by Roald Dahl, about a genius child. And I always wanted to be that child. And she used to read hundreds of books every day, and she could control people with her eyes. And I always thought that was amazing. So
Okay.
Matilda it's still my favorite book to this day. And now I get to read it to my children. So it's fun.
Well, passing sort of that heritage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Most used application. Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. That was pretty guess worthy. What's your favorite brand?
Oh, favorite brand. Um, uh, Armani, classic,
Classic. Classic.
timeless,
Yeah.
Italian. What can I say? It's in the heritage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just beautiful value, and yeah, I just love that, the simplicity and the classiness. Anything that's timeless for me is beautiful.
Yeah. Uh, the best country you visited so far, or city?
Too hard. So God, the best city.
The top three,
So
let's say.
like I say, I travel. I mean, one of my favorite cities um is Rome, because of just the multitude of layers of history that pump through that town. I'm really lucky. I lived in Hong Kong, and that again, that's kind of almost top of the list. Do I have to choose yet? Hong Kong. Let's say Hong Kong, because it's crazy and I love it. I mean, I lived there in before it was suffering from a lot of troubles, but I just think it's the most fun, crazy metropolis ever, and I love it. Like you say, all those different layers of cultures and
Yeah.
time, and it's brilliant.
Yeah. And what is one hobby that you do apart from work?
I row big sea-going boats. So it's called gig boat racing,
Okay.
and it's a huge wooden boat that goes in the sea. And we have world championships every year. So yeah, it's one of my passions. So if I'm not, I'm always on the water somehow. So
Yeah.
I love getting down to the ocean.